Welcome back to A Story Worth Telling, the podcast, episode 3. We realise it's been a very long time since we did one of these, but you know...
Life
happens, yeah.
Lil! Have you seen that?
What?
Have you not seen that? The guy who plays Ted Lasso on like a news thing, and he's just being absolutely like a horror on the...
No,
in the show, and behind it says live because they're live, and he's like, Liam, you gotta live. So
yes, you have to live.
you have to live.
We have kind of changed things up for our podcasts now lately. They are far more collaborative. So as Discord members would know, and if you are obviously a member of Discord, we kind of open these up now more to kind of having a bit of collaboration, bringing topics to our fans and letting them kind of give their thoughts and feelings about the topics.
Well, that's what this channel is all about. It's about generating discussion and conversation around topics that are important to us. So yeah, in that vein, thank you very much to all those lovely Discorders who have contributed to the kind of thoughts and themes that we'll be discussing in this episode.
Absolutely. And we are discussing in this episode, as you may see from the title, which will be a title.
Good. We're not rusty at all.
No, not at all. Basically, teen dramas and what the craze is behind them and sort of why are they so important. And I think it kind of is very a current topic now because there are so many.
Well, let's maybe, set the scene of what are we saying that a teen drama
I love the hands
is.
you do when you set a scene.
I know, I'm just like, well, it is. It's a box.
Okay.
I'm putting us all in a box.
Okay.
God,
that's probably
how about
not
that?
it's not a good start.
What do we mean by like teen dramas? What are we saying here?
Well, we're saying, there's a huge amount of LGBTQ shows now that center around the lives of teenagers in school and sort of younger years. You see things like Heartstopper, huge craze right now. Young Royals, Scam was a huge craze, and it kind of still is to this day, even though it's quite a late, earlier one.
Yeah,
it's still a huge one. But I think in particular, Heartstopper and Young Royals are like everyone, on the tip of everyone's tongue right now in terms of what people are talking about and what people are watching.
it's a bit like it's this pulp culture kind of wave.
Yeah.
Everyone's on board.
And if you're not, who are you?
Well, maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about why it maybe doesn't resonate with some people.
Well,
but I don't know.
I think exploring why it does first, and it was really interesting to kind of get a lot of feedback from everyone on this topic.
So what's the question that we asked them?
Why is it so important?
Okay.
Why is it such a craze, and why is it so important? And there's so many reasons behind that. A lot of what we were hearing and kind of seeing, and I kind of agree with as well, is it's a form of representation that is so refreshing for kind of all generations to see, really, because you've got the form of you've got younger people watching this and going, oh my gosh, these people are my age and I feel comfortable in seeing myself that way. And you've also got generations of older people going, I wish I had this kind of representation when I was that age. And it's really refreshing and nice to see. And it's kind of right because it is fairly new. Like a lot of LGBT representation that you see ages back, it's not like that. It's
gritty.
It's gritty to say the least. It's not as sort of refreshing.
Fetishized.
Yeah. Well,
it's all very sexual. It's all very dark and emotional.
Yeah.
And less hopeful.
Yeah.
I would say.
And maybe the difference here is that we're seeing, and I remember when we first kind of like reviewed Heartstopper, and even I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit too
Sunshine and Rainbows.
Sunshine and Rainbows. But actually, it's like, well, why not be a bit Sunshine and Rainbows, I guess? Why not show children in a happier way of kind of accepting and learning their identities and not without all those. What often I think a lot of people, and then a lot of people mentioned it in the Discord as well, is this kind of like kill your gays trope, which is so relatable to like a lot of content that I think you and I are familiar with from
horror
like,
movies, perhaps.
well, horror movies, but you know and there's a time and a place for that kind of work as well. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's really important to have films that do talk about really important issues like the AIDS crisis and sort of harassment and discrimination towards gay people, but maybe not
all the time.
All the time? Yeah. And it's good to see that like there's new shows now that go away from that. I know someone was mentioning that they couldn't quite believe it because when they were watching Heartstopper, they were almost expecting every 5 seconds to see something bad happen to Nick or Charlie. Genuinely. Well, and I found that so like, oh my gosh, yeah. Because if you'd grown up with that amount of like, if you'd grown up with so much footage in media of gay people being attacked, being, you know, having bad experiences, then you kind of would expect it. So it's mad to think that you'd go into something going, I'm expecting this queer person to suffer. And then actually to see a show where it's less about that, it's more about them being happy.
Well, I think what you're saying there is that in days gone by, it was normalizing.
Don't show our age.
It was normalizing this trope of bad things happening.
Yes.
And I think as we were watching, you know, the first and second seasons, as we were kind of carried along that journey, it was normalizing the kind of positive, happy storylines.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously they have their, you know, dark elements, but it was more of this positive outlook. And by the second season, there wasn't a moment where I was like, oh, this is too positive or too, you know,
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
because it normalized it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I'm like fully invested.
And that's really refreshing because I feel like part of that as well in normalizing it is that you get to walk away feeling slightly better about the stuff that you're watching and how you relate to it.
If you don't have a Nick.
Yeah, because everyone needs a Nick.
Everyone needs a Nick.
Or everyone needs a Nick's mum. Everyone needs an Olivia Colman.
Liam!
That's kind of sick. Yeah, but no, it's great to kind of like, I think, see people kind of also noticing those changes in the way we are shown, because it kind of helps change the narrative a bit. If you're picking up on how you're being represented, then you're kind of helping change that, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of family viewing as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know why I was surprised by this, but, you know, there was a few comments about, hey, I watched this with my younger kids, like, you know, around the age of like 10, that kind of thing. And actually, thinking about the show, you know, there are some elements that are a bit like, oh, maybe we should discuss this a bit in more detail so that they really understand what it is that they're trying to show here. But on the whole, very age appropriate for younger generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could just sit down and watch it with your kids.
And also it's really kind of lovely to think that a parent is watching it with their kid, because unlike content that we probably would have watched in other generations before us that was gay or LGBTQ in any way, it would have been done in ways in which we probably would have been watching that on our own, maybe in secret. And knowing that there are people out there going, no, actually, I'm watching this with my child because either, you know, I want to start the conversation, I want them to feel comfortable to start the conversation, I want us to both be on the same page. That's amazing as well. And that kind of viewing, that kind of shared viewing experience between parent and child around queer topics in films and TV, kind of, it's almost really refreshing to know it's happening, because
so nice
those kids are probably having far better upbringings and able to, you know, accept their identities much earlier on in life and kind of really find that. I think, you know, most of the stuff that I was watching when I was a bit younger that was LGBTQ, there is no way I'd be watching that in front of my parents.
No, I remember sneaking away to watch some of these shows. I mean, obviously, you know, slightly complicated by the fact that I wasn't out, but I would remember sneaking away to watch these shows because they would always be on at like 9 or 10 p.m. at night, like after the watershed. and then just be ready with the remote just in case
I'm just
they walked in,
imagining-
so I could switch to the news.
I'm just imagining a sneaking around little Josh with a remote controller now.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like you had to. I don't know whether it was like ashamed or just like anxious
Potentially.
about being found watching these shows.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing that I could find at the time, and
Yeah.
those things were, maybe not appropriate for
Yeah.
the age that I was at the time.
Well, maybe... I don't know if not appropriate is the word, because really all queer, media should be appropriate. It's more about... Well, I mean, depends what the kind of depends what kind of media you're watching. But
You're
it's
not going to
more
sit down with your kids and watch Heartbreak High, are you?
well.
Or Elite, or something like these shows they're designed for
Yeah, they are.
late teens.
They are
young adults.
But it's also how the shows are kind of, created. It's more than just saying, oh well, if it's got, if it meets this criteria and it's got this and that, or certain scenes in that, a lot of development in how the script's done and how the characters are done contribute to how it's portrayed. Like, there are intimate moments in Heartstopper, and there are quite dark moments in Heartstopper as well that we see. But because of the way the story is told, I think you're watching it through just a much more open discussion sort of vibe than you would other shows like Elite and that. It's kind of like shows kind of make themselves... They decide how they want to be seen by people and whether or not they're going to be a family viewing experience or a hiding at night kind of experience. But it's true. And and I think a lot of LGBTQ shows were the latter for a very long time, but kind of seeing them come out into this fresher way is nice.
I think it's an extension of how they want to be seen. I think a big part of why these shows get so much hype and why they're so popular is that the actors off screen, attend pride parades.
Yeah.
And they're like really active in social media, and they're all over the place, like spreading this positive message.
Yeah,
and
I want to be at one of those pride
Well,
parades.
I know. Well, we were. I mean, we were actually there at London
We were?
Pride. Yeah, because you remember there's a few pictures of the Heartstopper cast on their bus or whatever going past a religious protest down past Green Park, and we walked past that same
Oh
same
my
protest,
god, I
and they were
was
like
that close to Kit Connor. Jesus Christ.
yeah. Well, we didn't actually see them in the float. But, we were there. We were Heartstopper
time-
cast adjacent.
Next time we get there earlier, okay? We get there earlier.
But it's the thing, like they're actually, as well as being actors playing these roles on screen with positive messages, they're getting out there and spreading the word themselves as well.
It's activism. It's like activism beyond the viewing experience. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's amazing.
As well. I think in Heartstopper as well, there was far more representation than you would get in most shows. I think
You think?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of people were talking about the asexual kind of representation in there with characters like Isaac. And that's, I mean, for me especially, that was brand new because I don't think I've ever seen any form of show that kind of really looks into someone who is asexual in their identity.
Or maybe just like tells the story in a way that you can understand.
Yeah.
You can really like empathize with, okay, that's what it must feel like.
Yeah. I think that's sometimes the beautiful thing about it is that you're watching these characters just kind of explore and question things, and there's no set, oh, this is a label or this is how you have to act because you're checking a box here in identities. You're literally just watching a bunch of people on screen kind of question things, express themselves. I mean, the amount of communication that all these young kids are doing all the time and just saying things like how I feel, how I think. And then you can take bits of that as someone watching and going, oh, you know what? I relate to that, or I get that. And it makes it far more just accessible to everyone.
I think it's why it works so well in the kind of, high school, early teen setting, is that that's a time for self-exploration.
Yeah.
And finding out who you are and what your beliefs are, and you've got that opportunity there.
Yeah.
Where you're not, working and the struggles of life.
Yeah.
You can explore that, and maybe that's why it's the perfect setting. That's why we see it kind of again and again. It's like this high school journey, except this time they actually like did it in a way where it wasn't cliche. It did explore things in a way that was deep and meaningful, but not so deep that you kind of get lost and you kind of lose sight of what the real message is.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a message of kind of inclusion and otherness and normalizing
absolutely.
that.
And the fact that there are like older people watching this, not just people who are around the same age, but people who have kind of gone through their childhood, their kind of growing up experiences, and they're looking at this and going, "Oh, do you know what? This is brilliant." It's actually really refreshing, because I think on the other side of things, I can understand, areas or people, should I say, who may think, "Oh, it's this isn't good, or this is a bit silly, or maybe it's overly optimistic," but I think they would only be saying those things because they come from an understanding of previous representation. And to know that there are people out there going, "Well, I've seen..."
Or they experience it themselves.
Or they experience it themselves. Yeah. And to know that there are people out there kind of who are of a different generation, who've probably seen representation like that before, but watch this and still go, "Oh, this is beautiful." It's really, really refreshing. Because you kind of you've seen both ways in which our community has been presented, and you go, "No, do you know what? This is far better because it's just generally nicer."
Do you think that there are differences between Heartstopper and Young Royals, being like the two big popular shows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're similar in a lot of ways. Again, with the kind of like young people exploring themselves. I do think Young Royals kind of brings in a little bit more of this adult kind of viewing experience.
I feel a lot more stressed watching Young Royals.
Yeah, I never end an episode of Young Royals going, "Oh, that was lovely."
Yeah, wasn't that
like
nice?
Yeah, I end it going, "Oh God, what's happening?" And maybe that's kind of it's nice to know that you can finish watching an episode of something and you don't have to, bang your head against the wall for a couple of minutes.
I don't need
afterwards.
to lie down.
Yeah, you don't need to have a lie down. So, but again, it's this young people thing. It's this seeing younger people kind of doing things that I wish I had kind of explored. Maybe not all the things, like the things that happen in Young Royals.
I don't know, I wouldn't mind being a little prince.
Oh yeah, I would
for the
mind
day.
being Prince.
Yeah, they are navigating different sets of issues, I would say. I think the difference with Young Royals is that there are more external pressures.
Yes.
Whereas Heartstopper is very much kind of internal struggles and dealing with your own identity and your peers.
Yeah.
Whereas Young Royals is very much like, "Oh, hey, and we'll just throw in this like, society or the royal family or all these extra money, all these other pressures which are a bit more real." But the way it's told in that setting is still really enjoyable.
I think as well, coming back to the sort of the Heartstopper effect, if you like, in the way we see different media, I think we're also seeing it translated into other media as well. Because something like Red, White and Royal Blue, which actually was about slightly older generation of guys.
Maybe our generation.
Our generation, I'd like
perhaps.
to. I could be a prince. I think that film, which beautiful film by the way, if you haven't seen,
and we reviewed, by the way,
also had this kind of optimism effect on it, and
no one died.
No one died.
No one died. Isn't that nice?
I think any show where no one dies is a good show. Yeah. And it kind of, to me, it had a similar vibe to Heartstopper in that it was just like, yes, there was troubling moments in it, but overall it gave you this sense of hope, this sense of really refreshing ways of looking at LGBTQ people and seeing them happy, seeing them just be happy. So I feel like this kind of new wave of like how we tell queer stories is kind of infecting the wrong word there, spreading
the wrong word as well.
Influencing.
Yeah.
There we go. Influencing. It's influencing other media and other stories, and that's quite nice to know.
Well, it's like a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Right? You make like a happy, positive show, put it out there into the world. People respond really well to it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's make another one.
Absolutely.
It's like a positive
Yeah.
feedback loop. So if we just keep being enthused about these new shows, then maybe we'll see more and more of them.
Aw,
And that's a good thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see more and more of them.
Apart from Younger Royals, which is finishing. But, who knows?
Well, yeah, I think that that sums it up.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't know. You just feel good.
You do.
You just feel good watching.
Well, why
it.
not?
Yeah.
You should feel good.
Yeah. Plus, we should, maybe nod our hats. Oh God, that's an old phrase. Tip our hats.
Tip our hats.
Tip our hats.
Take our hats off.
We should, we should take our hats off to the acting, the direction.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
The Young World's direction, like the kind of intimacy coordination.
Oh,
like
God,
so good. And obviously, Alice Hosman for writing the damn thing.
Oh,
She
yes.
did a fantastic job.
She didn't write Young Royals.
No, Heartstopper.
Oh, Heartstopper. Yeah, she wrote Heartstopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, there's so much talent,
Yeah.
queer talent,
Yeah.
being pushed into these shows, and you can really tell.
Yeah. It's not only for queer people, but created and developed by
Queer people.
queer people. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think as well as that, it then generates conversations that other queer people and people like us kind of get to talk about and explore. And you're right, you kind of have this giant feedback loop. It's lovely. Lovely to know.
Isn't that nice?
Isn't that very nice? Right, well, I think that will
Wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
I guess if you have other thoughts and, are there other reasons that we didn't discuss that you think are really important as to why people really engage with this show, then
Absolutely.
let us know. Drop it
Tell
in
us
comments
what you
or
think.
messages, whatever you like. Let us know.
And if you would like to kind of share your thoughts on our next episode and topic, it will be on our Discord. So go have a look at that.
Clear instructions there. If you want to get on our Discord, then please go find our Patreon, and there's like a couple of tiers on there, but both of those get you access to the Discord channel, and then you can join part of our community over there.
Oh, is that
That?
better?
That is better.
Okay.
I think.
Fine. Sorry, Dad.
Thank you for listening if you're listening. Thank you for watching if you're watching. And thank you for being you.
Oh, that was good, actually. Yeah, that was good.
Like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you. Okay,
See you the next one.
bye.
Bye.